whether you have, met somebody in person, done some, belly to belly work, and you've met somebody and you've handed them your card and you've built rapport, and then they go off to do their thing. They go off to do their homework.
Hey everyone, welcome to Core 90 training here with the community at eXp Realty. We are so excited you're joining us today. And today we're diving into a topic that if you've never learned about this before, it's going to be very exciting to you because this is an unbelievably low, or in most cases, no cost way to extend your business reach. And if you haven't been doing this, it's going to change your life overnight. And this is what I love about this type of training, is to jump in on something where anyone can do this. It's just that most people don't. So it's a huge difference, right? You can do it. Most people don't do it. It's not hard. And so Craig's going to break down today exactly how does the EOS system work? How does the evidence of success system work? And how has he been implementing that not only into his own business, but as a top coach, helping agents across the country to be able to do this in their businesses. And I'm just going to bring him up on stage because he's the expert here. Craig, good to have you here today, my man. Coming to us live from Colorado Springs. How's it going, my friend?
Yeah, it's going great. It's nice and warm out. It's not snowing. It's always a good day.
I love that. Yeah, it's a beautiful day, I'm sure. So tell us a little bit about, what is even this evidence of success system, and where should we get started?
Yeah. So for me, the evidence of success system is really, the thing that happens after you have made that touch, whether you have, met somebody in person, done some, belly to belly work, and you've met somebody and you've handed them your card and you've built rapport, and then they go off to do their thing. They go off to do their homework, or if you are using some sort of lead generation system, it's a great, people will get the leads. They'll see the contact. They'll see like, there's the person I should talk to. Most people are going to go like, let me go look that guy up. So, and it's not going, is it going to get you a bunch more leads? Maybe, probably not. Eventually it will, and we'll talk about that, but it'll pay off in other ways. But it's the close, the thing that makes them go, okay, that guy's a professional. That guy is that guy, that gal. They're doing the work that they seem to be, proposing that they're doing. They're real estate agents. They look like your real estate agents. It's like that, barks like a dog, must be a dog. So, how do you put that out there and do it in a way that is, if not free, very inexpensive, so that when they go look, they go, okay, I'm going to talk to that guy.
I love that. That makes total sense. And so it's really this kind of confirmation point where when people are decided they've met with you, or they've met you even just casually, right? And now everybody goes and snoops you out, and they are going to develop some type of bias. And the important thing to remember is they might be considering you and one other person, right? So like, yes, the close doesn't happen just because you say the right things. A lot of times the close happens because they meet you, they meet somebody else, and now they go and research, quote unquote, both parties, which is really just like internet stuff, right? We all call it research. It's sort of, they're not going down to the library and Library of Congress and pulling out books.
Nope.
So tell us, how does this work, or where do we go from here then?
Yeah. So, again, Craig McHugh, I am a real estate agent here with eXp here in Colorado Springs. Been doing it, going into my 9th year. Before that, I was in the tech industry for 20 some odd years. Had several IT companies that I'd started and ultimately sold, and took some time off, got into real estate. I work for tuition now. I've just had my youngest just graduated from college, so now I'm paying that bill. So, gotta pay the man. So, yeah, but we do lots of different stuff. My wife and I also have a podcast. We're in our podcast, my podcast studio here, but called Unconventional Lives. Just to give a little shameless plug out there to everybody. It really has nothing to do with real estate. It really has a lot to do with just living differently, aging, empty nest, fitness, sex, all the things that old people like me have to deal with. So I had to throw in the sex part, just to make some intrigue there. So, It's on Apple Podcast. It's on Spotify if you ever want to.
When you said sex, our viewer count doubled. That was crazy. I don't know what just happened there. So
Or it just went to zero. It could go either way.
that's
So,
awesome.
so we talked about evidence of success. A couple of disclaimers here. I'm going to talk about. I'm not a web developer. I'm not a specialist. I'm not a designer. I didn't stay at a Holiday Inn last night. I don't have like. It's not my gig, but I can tell you I've spent a lot of money over the last 30 years trying to understand this internet thing and trying to drive business. I don't have all the answers, but I think I've got a pretty good handle on it. I really am at a point today where I don't do a lot of paid ad generation or lead generation. I've gotten to the point where word of mouth is sufficient, but it is also this actually really does help with that as well. So I'm going to kind of just share with you all of my observations and what I've kind of figured out over the years. The other build disclaimer is there's no magic bullet here. The things I'm going to tell you take time, but they should be done diligently all the time, and they will help ultimately with whatever else you're doing, whether it's, going out, door knocking, meeting people, open houses. Anytime you hand somebody, you have a conversation or you hand somebody something, your business card, and they're going to go do that little bit of research. This is what we're going to be talking about for the next hour and a half here. How do we convince them? How do we show that sort of this, what I call a culmination of noise, right? Can you make enough noise on the internet that ultimately Google, who is, I'm just going to say it, it's Google. Like if you use other things, great, good on you. But Google is where most people go. Can you make enough noise online so that Google will put all those pieces together and you can own the first page of a search? That's what we're going to be talking about today. And own it in a way that, and really kind of the other side of that is, can you own that first page in a way that if somebody were to go look at it, they wouldn't even click a link? And that sometimes like blows people away. But I based on the research I've done, you can reach a point where they just go, scroll down, look at the page and go, oh yeah, that guy's legit. Can you do that? I am here to tell you, you can do that. So, that's really what we want to do. Can you convince them that you're a full-time successful real estate agent without them having to click on Google? So, and let me run that scenario for you one more time. Hand out cards, you're knocking on doors, you're meeting people at open houses. Even another one that's really interesting is referrals. A referral business is something that every agent should be doing constantly. You should be constantly trying to stimulate your client base to have them tell other people. I've said this before in other podcasts or other core 90s, and it dates me every time I say it, but there's that mental Rolodex in your clients' heads. When somebody says, hey, I think I'm going to sell my house, and the first thing that comes out of their mouth, hopefully, is you got to talk to them. You got to call Craig. You got to call Craig and Kellie. They're amazing. Don't talk to anybody else. And if you can do that and you get that level of referral business, man, that's golden. Don't think they're not going to do their research though. A referrals goes a long ways, but people still, at that point, you're still a persona non grata. They don't know who you are. They don't know you. So they're going to go do some research on you. So I thought this was a fascinating quote. I found it the other day. According to data from the National Association of Realtors, a significant portion of customers, particularly sellers, tend to use the first real estate agent they meet, with many contacting only one agent before they make the decision. Highlighting the importance of making a strong first impression as an agent, this is largely due to relying on referrals from friends and families or lenders. So, how do you get that strong? And that, I don't know. By the way, a side note here, like I teach a lot in classrooms, so I love interaction. Don't feel like if you have input, if you have something you want to say, if you think you have something that can help with the point we're trying to make, please chime in. I love to be able to chat with folks about that. So back to where I was. So how can you make this page like, oh, okay, yeah, that guy's legit. Most people want to know that you're serious about your job. They don't want to spend all day searching. They just need to see some proof. And there's been tons of studies about this. Google's done tons of studies. A lot of companies have researched like, can you drive somebody to a page and have them go yes without them going any further? And you obviously want to have the data behind that to back that up. But it's very common. You can secure that lead by just what they see on that first page. So then really what we want to do is own 100% of the first page. Can you create a situation where the entire first page is you? And honestly, it's super easy. It's time consuming and it just takes time, but we'll talk about how you do that. I think one of the biggest mistakes I see most agents make is rather than pay for something else, pay someone else instead of doing and taking the time to do this themselves. A lot of times it's like, I'll just pay to get the leads. I don't want to have to do all this, but I do feel like this is the 1-2 punch that you want to have. So, all right. Any questions before I jump in here?
Not a question, but I love that you brought up this concept of most people only speaking with one agent, or two at the most, right? But
Yeah.
one is the majority, which is fascinating. And that most people, even if they meet with two, hire the first one that they met,
Yeah.
which is fascinating as well. So there is this concept of being first in line. And a lot of times we think of that from a cold lead gen perspective. This still applies to your sphere. And you have to assume that everyone in your sphere also has multiple people that maybe have a real estate license. You just want to, I love that mental Rolodex. You want to be the one where, like, when they flip to realtor
Yeah.
in their brain, there you
Yeah.
are.
Yeah, it's funny. I just had this happen 2 weeks ago where I had met somebody, got to talking about real estate, and she kind of like in like a hushed tone, like leaned over, like somebody was going to hear her, and she's like, "My neighbor's a real estate, but I don't think she does it full time, and she's not very good at it." And I was like, so she's like, "I'm not going to use it. I'm not going to tell her I'm selling my house." I'm like, that's a great idea. Like, that's super smart. So I thought it was like, okay, it'll be our little secret until my sign goes in your yard. So, it's like, okay. So I'm going to kind of start with the basics. I mean, some of the stuff that we all talk about, and you'll see memes about and jokes about, which, for starters is like the things you're putting out there. Like, let's start with headshots, right? Let's talk about our real estate agent pictures. Are they current? Do they look like you? If you handed your card to somebody, would they go, huh, that doesn't look like you? If they saw you online, if they met you in person and then they went online and looked you up, would they go, I'm not sure that's the same person right there? Like, keep those up to date. Honestly, one of the best things I've found with that is my photographer that does all of my real estate photography. He came. I said, like, I mean, I need to get some new headshots. Do you know anybody can help me? He goes, I can do that. And I'm like, okay. So like went to his house. He had a background. Like I think he charged me $100 and redid. He does them every now and then. As I get older and my hair falls out more and my beard turns more gray, it's like I probably need to keep that updated. So, one of the things I always tell people about with headshots, and I think it's a mistake that agents commonly make, and we'll see this in a minute when we kind of jump on the web, is you should have a headshot with a white background. Period. If you want to do any other headshots, if you want to have, mountains in the background or a house in the background or your dog or things like that, that's fine. But for the web, you should have a headshot that is you dressed professionally with a white background. And the reason I say that is, and you'll see this in a second, is once we start going through some of these sites over and over again, you'll see every single one of these sites is a white background. So when you don't do a white background, your picture looks odd. It stands out in weird ways. And I'll show you that here in a sec. So yeah, there you go. There's a good example of my headshot with a white background. And when you see it, once you see it on these other sites, you'll start to see this sort of pattern of like, okay, they're all white backgrounds, and your picture really pops out of the white background with a white background on it. Otherwise, it looks like it's always little odd shapes. You know, it's a circle or a square, and it doesn't fit right. So get all the headshots you want, go wherever you want. If we have in Colorado Springs, it's almost required to go to the Garden of the Gods and get your headshot with the Garden of the Gods in the background or the mountains in the background. You go do that, but you don't want to necessarily put that out everywhere. So that's the first thing. Let's have up-to-date professional headshots. Next one I'm going to talk about is something as simple as a domain name. Okay. I think a lot of agents miss this opportunity to use a domain name. So for example, my domain name is themchughteam.com. And actually it didn't, when I first got into real estate, somebody else had that and I had a different one and I didn't love it. But then one day it popped up available and I grabbed it, and it's very simple. Domain names, guys, nowadays are they are very easy to get. I mean, I use Squarespace. I think I spend $16 a year for them to host my domain name. It's something stupidly inexpensive. So, don't have to go crazy, but I mean, don't have to get too kitschy, but you should have your name at your domain name. Again, if you were running any other kind of business, if you're running any other service business, if you're running a tanning salon, if you're running a bakery, if you're running a restaurant, you're not going to have it be like, Craig's great tans at gmail.com. You're going to have a domain name for a business because you want to look professional. It's not hard to do, right? So keep it simple, get a domain name, use that for your website. And I'll show you how I'm using mine for my website. And then also, use it for your email. It's super easy to do that. You can connect it to Gmail. If you're not sure how to do that, you can hire people, go find a savvy teenager somewhere that'll do it for you. So, and we'll talk about in a minute a little bit more about email addresses. So, one of the caveats on using a domain name is make sure that you understand your local MLS and boards regulations for domain names. And I've seen this happen before. A lot of local boards won't let you, if you're not a brokerage, they won't let you put like Craig McHugh Realty, or you can't act like you're a brokerage if you're just a broker. So you can call your local board, you can call your local MLS and say, hey, what are your rules around using a domain name? And I almost guarantee you they're going to have that. So, and again, if anyone has any questions, feel free to jump in. If I'm just talking nonstop, I'm gonna be out of content in like 12 minutes. So, help me out here. So next, let's talk about email addresses too. I also feel like, when I talk about domains and emails, I want you to kind of think about these concurrently. And but I want you to think about it. A lot of people are like, nah, I don't need that. I've been using my AOL email address forever. Everybody has that, or my Yahoo or my MSN or, or my Gmail account. I get it. Yes. But remember who our audience is nowadays, right? The old gray hairs like me, we're not buying houses as frequently anymore. Mainly because we got locked in on a 2.5% rock star rate, and we're going to die in this house, right? So we didn't care that you had an AOL address, probably because we have an AOL address. Like we bonded over using that. Your clients today are millennials, 32 to 40, right? They are super tech savvy, right? And they also are thinking, I want to find an agent who's going to take advantage of technology, who understands this technology, and is going to like use it to my advantage to find me the best possible house. They're very tech savvy. And if you put yourself out there as like, yeah, I love technology, I do technology, and then you send them an email from your MSN account, like they're going to call BS on you right away. They're in their little noggins. And this is probably a bigger picture that I want you guys to all think about. A lot of what I'm talking about here is subconscious. It is not something that is people are thinking about, but they pay attention to it, especially the millennials. It's like if you don't have a website, even though I don't use my website, it's an IDX. I will talk about it. I mean, I assume nobody goes to my website, but people want to know you have it. If you have an email address that is antiquated, or it's like, okay, is this person really tech savvy? So I heard a bird chirp. Was that me?
Yes.
Okay. Like the birds are out. So we don't have those right now this time of year. So yeah, it's
I
important.
saw Scott Gebhardt has his hand up there. Scott?
Yes, I know,
Hey,
Scott. It's AOL isn't as bad as I'm making it out to be. You can still use your AOL address.
I'm actually the opposite. I'm pretty good at keeping up. But I have a question. I like that about, domain names and things like that. And I know, Jeff, you're guilty too. I have way too many domain names.
Yes,
I've got it covered. And if somebody wants to buy them someday, that'd be awesome. Um,
perfect.
but I really believed in, and I like the fact that, and I like what you're saying is like I have several domain names that are exactly probably what somebody's going to type in. So
Yes,
hopefully I'll come up and in the first page, like you're talking about, without having, because of just the actual name. Like if
yes,
it's here, it's like, Medford Home Values, or if I'm doing campaigns for listings in different towns, like I personally have probably 8 different of my towns that are my big ones. And I own the domain names. And so that's
yeah.
or, if I put something out there, I'll have it like that. And it's usually really close to the search that they're throwing in. I was just curious if you've do
Yeah,
that.
no, I think that's great. I mean, the hard part is at some point you've got to maintain all of that. So as long as you're
Yeah.
landing them where, something that's relevant, the worst thing you can do is put a domain out there and, that's like Medford Homes and you land them on a generic page and they have to go, beyond that. I see that a lot. Even worse is you own the domain and it goes to some broke link somewhere that, it's like, okay, yeah, like all that work for nothing. So, I mean, if you're going to do that, by all means do it. Because I do believe that if when done correctly, it works really well. We have a gentleman here in town. He owns a domain, Great Colorado Homes. And man, that's all he does now is just maintain and sort of sell his leads and drive people to that site. And he's made a very good go at it. And it's actually great. It actually competes if you do it right with Zillow. It like his stuff will spider up as good as Zillow and Realtor and a lot of the other ones.
Okay, it's not exactly a free thing, but then you can, and I'm trying to stay away from, the lead gen part, just like more visible right now, like you're talking
Sure.
about.
Yeah.
But I have it just on on my website. Like I said, nobody really goes to your websites anymore, but if they might have to click once, but I do have them just all as a separate page on my website. So
Yeah.
it's all with the same thing, and it does have to look good and,
Yeah.
and have it
Yeah, and there
connect.
are you can do sales funnels as well and drive them into those and through a process. That's, if you can do that, that's very powerful. That's a great way to grab leads as well. All right. So it's important. Tech savvy generation. Those guys they're paying attention to that. Maybe not on a conscious level, but on a subconscious level, they're going to go. I mean, even I do it. I mean, I'm from the tech industry, so whenever I see it, I'm like, come on, like we can do better than that. One other little sidebar I'm going to put out here, and I've seen this happen multiple times now in my career with agents that have moved primarily from other brokerages to mine. Stop using your brokerage's email account. Stop it. Stop. Because we all know people move around, right? I cannot tell you how many agents I have had to deal with who have come in distraught because they had been at, fill in the blank, whatever brokerage you want, whether, it's KW or, Remax or, whatever it is. And they've been using their brokerage email for the last 10 years. And they finally got to the point where they're like, you know what? I love EXP. I want to come to EXP. And they come over and they're like, hey, how come all my emails stopped? How come every place on the, after 10 years of putting my KW email address out into the world, all of a sudden you go from like all of that to zero? Because I can guarantee you your brokerage is not going to go like be a good sport and go, oh yeah, we'll just keep forwarding. We'll just forward those emails to you. They're under no obligation to do that. Period. None. And I know we're with, EXP, even the same. You should have your own domain email. That makes you 100% transportable to wherever you want to go. Whether you want to leave the brokerage you're at, or you want to start your own independent brokerage, you want to have that autonomy from your brokerage so that you don't end up one day with all of your emails stopped. And remember too, when those emails come in the future, a year from now, and your client who didn't get the message that you switched brokerages reaches out to that, those emails aren't going to get bounced back. They're going to get picked up by the brokerage. Smart brokerages hang on to those email addresses and they just funnel it to somebody else. They're not here anymore, but Bob can help you. So remember that. It's a painful thing to go through with people. All right. Lastly, phone numbers. Have a business line. Don't use your cell phone number. Because people will call it at crazy hours, but have a number and that is a dedicated number. And you can get those. So you can get them through KV Core. I use Follow Up Boss. You can get them through Follow Up Boss. You can have a dedicated phone number that is for your business calls, right? And the couple of things are important about this. The first being, we want to create, and all of these things I've just talked about, right? So a domain name, email address, and phone number. We want to have all those need to be 100% consistent across everything else I'm going to show you here. Because I think one of the biggest mistakes, and we'll talk more about this in a second, one of the biggest mistakes a lot of people make, especially agents, is they use different phone numbers, they use different email addresses, even what we were talking about, Scott, using different domain names, and you put them all out there into the Google universe, and Google can't pull the thread. They can't figure out like, oh, this is the same person. And the way they do that is by using standardized information, your address, your domain name, your phone number, your email address. If they see that somewhere, they'll go, oh, that's Craig. We're going to connect those together. And ultimately, when they're building their composite of you, they're going to have all of those very similar information. Let's just serve up this information to Google on a silver platter so that they don't have to work at it and they don't go out and screw it all up. Or we want them to just go, oh, same guy, same guy, same gay, same gal, same girl. Yeah, it's like, there it is, simple. And you'll see that when we get going here. So, all right. That's my spiel on like standardized stuff here. Any questions on that? Man, that good.
But I have to say two things. One, this is the first time I've heard you with this new microphone, by the way, which your setup is rad. So I just want to acknowledge that. And
I've got my smoky bedroom voice now, so it's sounding like super nice.
Seriously, I'm like, can Craig read me a book at night so I can go to sleep? Like on this mic, that sounds so good. So that's really great.
Money. It's slow right now, Jeff. So I'm open.
But what I also love is you're giving really actionable advice. None of this stuff is hard, guys. And I know a lot of times, Craig, I mean, you have to have heard this. You're dealing with an existing agent. They're like, I don't have enough business. And then you tell them to do this stuff. And they're like, I don't have the time to do all that. And you're like, I thought you just said you didn't have any business, right?
Oh, yeah.
Like you've got the time to go do this. If you're not out there doing 6 listing appointments a day, just do this and create this confirmation point for people. Even if your whole business model is like, I'm going to go talk to for sale by owners, they're going to snoop out who you are the second you exit. You're going to not even have driven away from their house yet. They're already on the internet looking you up to see how quote unquote legit you are.
Yes.
Yep. And this is all part of that. And by the way, I want to double down on the get a smart number. And I don't care which one you use, right? Like there's a million services for this. You can use whatever. Yes. Everyone at EXP has KV Core. It comes with a smart number, but the caveat is the one that it comes with for free is a shared smart number. And Liz just posted here. I know Liz is kind of our resident KV Core expert now, Bold Trails. $27 a month. That's 324 for the year for that. If you're using something like Follow Up Boss, because you're like Craig and Kellie, you run a team or you have a scaled up operation, that's awesome. There's other ways to handle this, but it needs to only come to you, because your thought needs to
Yes.
be, if somebody gives this to their friend, the smart number doesn't know who the friend is. And you don't want it round robining their friend to 700 agents in your local MLS because you're on a shared smart number.
Right. Yes, absolutely. You want to have that. We used Grasshopper forever and it was cheap.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it was 12, $15 a month for,
I love those guys.
yeah. And it was great. And the other thing that, oh, and I didn't mention this, but also if you have a number, please make sure you have a professional sounding message. I used to do it through Grasshopper and they would hire people to do voice work and like essentially read what you want. I have now stopped doing that. You can just go, there's tons of AI voice generators out there. They're free. You type out the text and put it in, pick your voice, hit go. It'll read it to you and you just go, oh, that sounds nice. And then they'll give you the MP3 and you upload it in and it sounds great. You know, you don't want to be like, hey, it's Craig, I'm busy right now. I'll call you back. You know, it's like, no, let's act like a business. Let's act professional. So, you know, use an AI generator. They're 100% free. There's 1,000 of them now. I even think you can use ChatGPT and Grok and all the other different ones to just, you put it in and say, read this to me and send me the MP3 file and you can, it's free. So, you know, just again, how can we sound professional? How can we put ourselves just that much above someone else? All right. Let's talk about SEO. Okay. For those of you who don't know, SEO is search engine optimization. You know, really, let's call it what it is. Let's call it make Google happy. Because at the end of the day, we're talking about Google. I mean, there are other search engines out there, I know, and DuckDuckGo, and you know, you can use. Does anyone use Microsoft? I don't think so. So, you know, I wouldn't even worry about that one. So,
Are they even still in business?
are they still in business? Somebody must use it. I mean, you know, I don't know, but yeah, let's talk about. I'm going to primarily focus on Google. So, you know, so. Let's talk about the first thing. I'm going to share my screen here real quick, Jeff. I think I just go here.
You're all set up, boss. Go for it.
Go there. Oh, nope, that's not it.
We've got your whole desktop at the moment. I don't know if you were trying to. There you go.
I wasn't trying to do that. I was trying to do this.
Now we can see your bank account. That's weird. I don't.
Just dang it. Why is it doing that? Is that, what are you seeing now?
Google search with the McHugh team.
Okay, perfect. That's what you want. Okay, so let's talk about, why does that go over there? Sorry, I'm organizing. Sorry. I can't see my chat now. Oh, all right. So let's talk about Google for Business. Okay. Everybody seeing that right side of my screen here? It says the McHugh team and eXp Realty. Jeff, are you seeing that? Okay. All right. So this is Google for Business. Okay. This, in my opinion, is the very best thing you can do for your business. Hands down. You get a stupid amount of real estate on a web browser when you use this. You get this entire sidebar dedicated to you, right? It's absolutely free. It's business.google.com. It is it's a crazy value. I have to say, full disclosure, as of late, Google has made this really hard to set up. I mean, like it used to be you would just say, here I am, here's my business. And it would go out and they would send you a postcard with a little number on it. You would put in the little number and it would send you would, and it would connect your business.
It was like the 6-digit text codes, right? And
Exactly.
but through a postcard.
It was super simple. But now you have to go like outside of your building, take video of like other businesses near your, and then walk into your business and walk in the door and show your sign and look around inside and then you'll send it to them and they'll go, no, we didn't accept that. And then you have to call them and they go, oh, I don't know why we didn't accept that. So I've had several agents recently like, that's really hard, but it is well worth the time and energy that it's going to take. Again, for starters, because you get a ton of business. So anytime, for example, this is a Google search I did for the McHugh team. This also comes up if you search my name or, Craig McHugh, it comes up on that too. So couple of things that are really important about this. I have an address. So myself and another team, my team and another team have an office, and we actually share this space with our group in Colorado Springs. And so it works out well for us. I know at EXP, most people don't have offices, but I'm going to show you in a minute why I think it's important to try and have a physical address that's in a business related environment, because there's some searches that really start to pay out there. So that's one reason why you should have it. If you don't have it, you can leave the address off. It'll still show up. It just won't search as well, but you can leave the address off. By all means, don't use your home address. You'll be sorry you did that. So, because I know a lot of us work from home, don't do that. If you have to, some suggestions would be to, try and come up with, rent an office somewhere, use if your spouse has a business, try and come up with an address, and I'll show you why in a second. Here's the other thing that's interesting with this Google for Business. People can write you reviews, and they don't, unlike Zillow, they're not tied to a particular real estate transaction. So my new agents out there, if you're looking like, how do I get street cred immediately? This is a great way to do it. Put down, come up with a name. It can be you. It can be, Craig McHugh, real estate agent, Craig McHugh at 3XP Realty. Pick something that denotes you are with a brokerage, and then get your information in there. Fill this out as much as you possibly can. Add photos. You can, with this Google for Business, you can add photos. Some of these are just that we have in here, just stock EXP ones. Like, this is our office. Pictures of me. Here's some training at our office. Here's a lunch and learn that we did. With Kelly, my wife does most of this. She puts, different from people on our team or in our group. We'll put stuff in there. We do some recruiting stuff in there. It's just a good way to, again, and have some like connection to those. But the other thing that you can do with Google is people can write you reviews, right? But they don't have to be tied to a real estate agent. And I'm going to give you a really good example of this. This is a gentleman named Eric Chess. He just joined us. He was an agent in the past. He decided he wanted to get back into real estate, and a month and a half ago, he had nothing. This page was empty. So he has run the gauntlet here. He has set up his Google for Business, and so he has an address now. He has his phone number, but he has 4 5-star reviews. He went out to his friends and family and people he knows, and I said, you can have them write you character reference reviews. So anybody can write one. So it's a great way to instantly get a lot of real estate. So it shows you're an agent. B, get reviews. They're not tied to anything, I don't keep them generic, but he's a great guy. He works hard. So, it's just a really easy way to get sort of instant credibility. And then, really some of the things we're talking about as well. He didn't have a realtor.com account. He now has a Facebook account. He now has his LinkedIn working. So, here's homes.com, picked them up already. Here's eXperience. I don't know what that is, but they something to do with EXP. I'm not sure. So, he's working to move towards owning the first page. This guy, Chess Real Estate Services, is in Connecticut. It's another agent, but before, even if you did Eric Chess Real Estate Agent, it was dominated by him. There was nothing for our Eric, and now he's pushed that guy down a significant amount, and he's starting to to Google and show more information. So it's a great way to get instant cred there. Try and use a business phone, or try and use have your website, connect your EXP website or whatever website you're doing. Don't leave any blanks with Google. Like, fill in everything that you possibly can, get reviews. So, it's a good way to look credible quickly. Any questions on that?
So smart.
Thanks. All right.
I think a lot of times, Craig, it's kind of lost on like, I have to do business before I can get business. And I like that you're putting this out there. It's like, it's the same as a job application. You don't have the job yet, but you get character references, people to say Craig did well in his past stuff, or just Craig is an honest guy and he's amazing and I would work with him easily. Or I've worked with him before, even if that was in a different capacity. They don't have to necessarily mention all of that. They can just say, I've worked with Craig before and he's great, high integrity, can't believe it, awesome guy.
Right. Yeah. And what we do now is we have started incentivizing our clients as well to write us reviews after a transaction. So we have a program where, if for every review that they write us, every positive review that they write us, we give them a $5 Starbucks gift card. So, and we give them links directly to Zillow, Realtor, and Google. So they just click on the link, they go in, I tell them just write it. You can even copy and paste to all three of them, and they just go right in and do it. And it costs me $15 and I get a ton of reviews.
Nice. Love it.
Okay.
Liz?
Yeah, have you done anything with like reviewing other people through your Google Maps and other restaurants to create relevancy in your area?
I think Kellie has done that. Yes. Kellie's my wife. But yeah, I think she has done that and done she's done a lot of other posts. She likes to do that anyways when she has a good experience. So, yes. And I also think there's with this Google one, there's no reason why you can't review, for example, if you bring somebody into your group, I just thought of this, but like, I should go and write a review of Eric, like, great guy. I mean, really enjoyed working with him. He's just a hard charger, former military, just a good guy. So there's no reason why we can't lift up the folks in our group when they do this as well.
Craig, I was going to mention something too. Like, I think you already mentioned it, because when you have different, as many different places you are, and I think you already said this about the importance of having everything match up.
Yes.
Address, your phone numbers, all of those things. It's so important. Like, it's amazingly important for your rankings. And then, just like you said too, the greatest thing is you don't have to have it tied to a property. So it's like when I first got on there, you can call everybody and send them a link.
Yes.
And I would put together like a little PDF or something like that, and I would basically just ask, please give me a 5-star review. I don't just ask for a review. I ask for a 5-star review. And I make it really sound like, if you don't give me a 5-star review,
I'm not going to be friends anymore. Well, and I think that I'm going to talk about that as well too. Like, don't send that out to somebody who was like, oh God, that was rough. Like, don't send it out to a client that, if there's any chance they're not going to give you a 5-star review, just, give them a hearty handshake and move along and try and make them happy over the next couple of years. But yeah, don't give them a reason. Don't give them a platform if they weren't like super stoked about the entire process.
And that's like everybody you work with, your lenders, your title company, everybody. Like, give them the review and ask for one. I mean, because it obviously helps the ranking of your amount of reviews. Just like I put in the comments that everybody should be giving you a 5-star review for this today. That could double your reviews.
Yeah, there you go.
Deal.
I like that.
It's a really big deal.
We could just stop right now and just do that.
I did say afterwards because I didn't want to interrupt you, because I thought everybody would start doing it, which might be better.
Maybe I'll do it for myself. I like me. All right. So that's great. And I think, Scott, I want to double down on what you just said as well. And we're going to talk more about that, but please be consistent on how you post everything. Every one of these sites we're going to go through now, and we're going to kind of just tick through some of these sites. You should be having, again, same phone number, same headshot, same email address, same same bio information, right? I mean, let's not make Google work for it. I mean, we want Google to find all of this and put it all together for us in one spot, right? So let's not make it hard. Let's just reproduce it over and over again. So this is my, search on the McHugh team, and we're going to kind of go through these, but you can see like the McHugh team, about the McHugh team, Craig McHugh, real estate agent, the McHugh team at EXP, Kellie McHugh, which is my wife, and her Facebook page, realtor.com, LinkedIn, EXP, Facebook. I own page one of Google. And the majority of people will never go past this point. I would actually go so far as to say a large portion of people wouldn't even click on any of these links. Because if you're just looking at my page, and I'm not trying to blow my own horn, but I do feel like people would look at it and go, it's got 15 5-star reviews on Google. It's got 42 5-star reviews on Zillow. It's like, okay, yeah. I mean, here's 8 realtor 5-star reviews. Here's a little 3 little snippets like, highly recommend Craig. He was relentless in finding the right home. When we're ready to get into the market, they got me a good price quickly. It's like, sounds like this guy's doing it. Sounds like this guy's a real estate agent and he's pretty darn good at it. So it doesn't take a lot of work. You just have to make sure Google understands what you're doing here, and it can find all of that. So let's go through. If anybody's having any other questions, let's go through. And I'm not paying attention to the chat that much, Jeff. But if something pops up, will you make sure to?
Most of it is just people saying how handsome and awesome you are. So
that's my wife. She's probably
nice.
I pay her to do that. So, all right, first one here, themchuteam.com. Obviously, that's my domain. We're Craig and Kellie at themchuteam.com, where we have the domain name, themchuteam.com. I don't have a website. I don't have an IDX website through, fill in the blank, Real Geeks, or whoever you would use. I use Ylopo for years. I've stopped using them now. This is the KV Core website. It's free, right? But if you look closely at the URL for this, it's craigmchugh.exprealty.com. That's the domain name that KV Core gives you. Now you can take and give KV Core your domain name, and they'll replace that URL with your domain name. I tried that. It was a little bit clunky. It did a lot of weird things, that it screwed with my email, and it just became more of a pain than it's worth. So all I did is I took it back. I said, you know what? I don't want to do this anymore. Stop. And I was paying for it as well. It's not that much. It's $11 a month. Last time I checked, but I'm like, I don't want to do this anymore. Turn it off. Go back to just using my domain, my EXP domain. And I went over to my domain host, Squarespace, and I just forwarded my domain to craigmchugh.exprealty.com. And so when but if you look on Google, it shows up as the McHughTeam.com on Google. Google sees it as that. Google doesn't see it as craigmchugh.exprealty.com. So for free, 100% free, I don't have to pay KV Core anything. I get an IDX website. So here's my bio. We'll talk about that more. But here's the thing I want you to understand about websites. And I think, this is probably going to be controversial depending on who's listening in here. I think it's silly to pay anybody for an IDX website anymore. Zillow ended that. Realtor.com ended that. Trillia ended that. But Zillow really ended it. People don't go to our websites to search for real estate. They don't. Just do the research. Zillow owns that right now. And I don't feel like, I think EXP is doing some things with realty.com that could change that. Hopefully, knock wood. But people don't use your website to search. They're not that great. And Zillow is just too easy. They're going to either go directly to Zillow, or they're just going to straight up Google the address and see what comes up. And the first thing that's going to come up is Zillow. So, spending, and I have spent hundreds of dollars a month in the past for an IDX website. And I finally got to the point where like I would look at the stats. A lot of times those folks don't want you to look at those stats, but I would look at the people that were going there and look at the stats, and you'd be like, hey, 7 people went to my website last month. It's like, but it's like, well, if you paid somebody to drive people there, it's like, okay, why would I spend more? It's like, let Zillow do that. I'm not let them do it. They just do it now. They own that stuff. So, KV Core is free, but the KV Core sites, because they do so many of them, they spider really well. When I say spider, for those of you who aren't tech savvy, that's when Google goes out and crawls around and finds information about you and puts it all together in a composite here, is called spidering. So they're gonna go out and spider. The KV Core sites spider really well. Like it's almost 100% of the time at the top. So really something for free. I get a website, I get use my domain name, and it adds to my credibility. Any questions? Okay. So next, these two are really interesting. They sort of fight for dominance constantly. So it's interesting, and we'll talk more about this in a little bit, but like it's interesting to go in and look, and I do it regularly, is to go in and look and see, which one took over the lead of Realtor and Zillow. So, but they're number 2 and number 3. They're always going to be right there underneath my domain name. So, or underneath my website. So again, consistent headshot. But here's something I want you to think back. I mentioned earlier, like see our headshot, see how the background is white on that headshot, but notice the background is also white on realtor.com's page, right? So it makes my headshot pop out better if instead of having it just be like a dark little circle there. So it's funny, I don't have a bio in there to fix that. So this is a weird page. I don't know what this is. I should probably fix that. I gotta fix that. See, this is the stuff I'm talking about. I did that for you guys, really. I want you all to know I actually intentionally didn't have this site so it looked better. Okay, let's move on. Zillow. So Zillow, this is interesting because it's always interesting for this sort of dichotomy between an existing agent and a new agent. I do a lot of training with new agents, and Zillow can kind of sting a little bit for a new agent. So on the one hand, like I love Zillow when I'm going up against other agents because we've worked hard on it. I have 42 5-star reviews on Zillow. And, I think that the real sort of gold star for Zillow is this page. It's like there's 126 homes I've sold all up and down the Front Range of Colorado. Like if I'm going up against an agent that's got 3 on there and no reviews, like I'm probably going to do a lot. My odds are going to go up that they're going to go, oh, gosh, that guy's really selling a lot of houses. So, if you have Zillow, couple of things. If you are not paying attention to Zillow, especially if you are not paying Zillow, if you're not a premier agent, if you're not tithing to Zillow, which I've done extensively, if you're not tithing to Zillow, they don't go out of their way to update your listings and your both buy and sell side. So I go in there frequently to make sure that every time I sell a house, Zillow actually added it to my roster of ones that I've sold. So make sure you're paying attention to that. This is going to be controversial as well. I know my team leads might be sending me nastygrams as well. But I think if you're an agent who's on a team and your team is claiming your production, you could be a great agent. If you ever leave and go up against me, I'm going to win. Because if even if you've been selling for 5 years on a team and you show you have no houses sold, you're gonna struggle. So I know this is I don't believe that should happen in our industry, but it happens, and I get grief for it. But you should be claiming your own production, and this is the why. It used to be it was never a problem because Zillow didn't exist. There was no disclosure. Nobody ever knew. They know now, and your team lead's hurting you. So sorry. It's Kelly at the McHugh team if you have questions or if you have issues with that comment. Just forward those to my wife. Team leads. So, so yeah, as soon as you can get those on there, get them on there, go back and try and, claim. You can go back even years and claim if they don't have production, you can go in and put them all in. You just have to go back on the Premier Agent site and add those. But, by all means, put those in there because it is important. If you had a team lead and it went through the MLS as them, you can't do that. But try and get those in there as soon as you possibly can. You can actually absolutely 100% have your former clients, even though if you're on a team, write you reviews. That's very doable. So that somewhat offsets that. Any questions on Zillow specifically? All right. Did I lose viewership on that one? Jeff, when?
Yeah, we had 85% of people log off.
Yeah.
I would say one thing on Zillow too, he may have already said this, that make sure you go in there and make sure you get credit for your sales because it'll show up. It used to not always show up. Now it seems to show up.
They've gotten better. I think they got a lot of blowback from like people because if when you were a Premier Agent, it was nails. But if you weren't, or even worse, when you stopped being a Premier Agent, it was like I was dead to them for like a year. They were just like, we're not sure what happened. We'll work on it. Like,
yeah,
okay.
one time for me, several years ago, and I was updating all these things like a long time ago. I had to add like 50 cells on there.
Yeah.
I don't know what it was. It was a bunch. So it's
Yeah.
like I went through every single cell I've ever had and matched it up with Zillow. So anyways, all right.
Yeah. And they'll just be sitting there. They'll be like, oh, that was you. It's like, yeah, look, my name's right there. But yeah, it was like, oh, sorry, we missed that one. Are those 50? So yeah, and the back end of Zillow's front end is really great. Their back end for agents is not, they really aren't putting any money into that part of the equation. So it can be a little frustrating to use. So but it is worth it because it does spider very well. Yelp, I've never paid Yelp a dime, and I do get leads off of it, and it just spiders really well. It's like every once in a while they'll reach out like, hey, you should do paid ads on Yelp, and I'm like, no, I shouldn't do that. And but it spiders really well. Actually, surprisingly, it's number 4 right now, which is usually LinkedIn. So for some reason, I'm getting like Yelp cred right now, but that's interesting. So those are going to be the big one. I don't know that really. I mean, there's Trillia, and it doesn't seem like that ever does anything. So I do have an account on there, but it doesn't seem to ever spider. I don't know if they invest any dollars into making that happen. So so here's my actual realtor. I think my other realtor one is a team one, but again, same headshot, same pictures, same phone number. This is a pet peeve of mine that just makes me crazy with EXP is we have one office for Colorado and it's in Denver, and I've actually lost leads because people go, oh, I didn't realize you were here in Colorado Springs. We thought you were in Denver. Inglewood is in Denver. And because that's what gets posted to from our real estate board. EXP uses one address for all the agents in the state. So it's like, it looks, I need to almost put like a big arrow, like I don't live here. I live in Colorado Springs. So maybe that's something I should add to this. So people put it right at the top. We love Colorado Springs. So, I think it's one of those things that I can't control. So, but one of the things I want to show you with realtor.com is this recommendations area here. So ratings and reviews are tied to a real estate transaction. So somebody had to have had a real estate transaction, and there's some verification that they do to make sure that the person that writes the review is the person that is owning the house now. Recommendations are, and they're just kind of randomly in here, but you can have your clients, this is almost like Google, that these are like character type of recommendations, and anybody can, you can add them in. Anybody can write a recommendation. It's not tied to a real estate transaction. So you can have your friends, for new agents, you can have your friends, you can have your family, you can have your dog, you can have your parakeet, all write recommendations for you. So, again, perfectly free and easy to use. So LinkedIn, I never use LinkedIn. I'm probably not smart enough to use it. And I have friends that love it, but it does spider really well. I've tried and tried to like it, and I've tried to use it, and I just fail every single time. But it's a really, it's a great platform for people that use it. They love it. I know people that just exclusively use it, but keep it up to date, and try and keep all your information in there. People will find it and they'll look at it. Again, the headshot, white background, looks really nice. Makes you pop out. And then Facebook. Let's see. Let's talk about Facebook.
Hey, Craig, can I stop you really quick?
Certainly.
Okay. First of all, when you're on your LinkedIn, we can tell what kind of shoes you're considering buying or that you've looked at, which I think is totally funny. I think you totally buy them because they would look great on your
I gotta
feet.
look now.
There's probably, now they're a different one.
Oh, right. They are Carhartts though, so
Yeah.
that'll do.
There's probably someone in our group that loves LinkedIn and we could lean into for that. I know.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's an amazing tool, and the people who we have a couple of agents in our group that are military specialists and people that are, we call PCSing, moving in and out of the state, because we have 5 bases here, and they have had a ton of success with that group because they apparently tend to use it a lot for just staying in touch with other people in military, and so they do a ton of advertising on it. They have a very, very well designed layout, and they get a lot of leads from LinkedIn in there. So
I wanted to say about the fact that you're getting leads from Denver. I think that that's actually a bonus. And it's
yeah,
something, especially it gives you an opportunity to send referrals and make agent connections in that area.
yes,
So you could consider nurturing those calls and
oh
really
yeah,
starting to be like the referral master to Denver. And everybody's like, ooh, I got a Craig referral, right?
right,
It's
yep.
just really that mindset and how you spin it.
Yeah, yeah, and we do send them out to. We have a couple of folks who we work with in different. Denver's a very large metropolitan area, so we probably have about a half a dozen agents around Denver that we refer out to. And for those of you who haven't done much, the new EXP referral
So great.
program, oh my gosh, it's so nice. It's
So
like, it
easy.
is so easy. It's just like
Yeah.
mailbox money. It's like, oh, look, a check. And like, what did I get that
Yeah.
for? It's just like, it just shows up.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm not logged in. But I'm not logged into Facebook, so you're just seeing this sort of generic Facebook. And one of the things I'm doing here, just so you know, is I am using, when I go to Google me or my either my team name or myself, I do it in a private browser. It would be called a Safari calls it a private browser. Chrome calls it an incognito browser. Make sure you use that, because then it's not taking Google can figure out, like, because if I search this same thing, Google will go, oh, that's the guy that owns the McHugh team, and it'll kind of change this, and like, do you want to edit this, do you want to change this? So I'm not really seeing what the public is seeing. When you do it with an incognito browser, you really kind of get an idea of what the public is seeing on your when they do those searches. So back to Facebook. Sorry, little sidebar there. 2 things I want you to think about with Facebook. Stop it. So number 1 is you should have a personal Facebook page, and you should have a business Facebook page. They're both free, and one should be, there should be some crossover. Like, you're seeing the the sort of public facing side of my personal Facebook page, but it has our EXP, like my banner isn't like, my dog laying on the couch. It is that I am a real estate agent. So I try really hard to make sure people know I'm a real estate agent, but I don't want to be like up in there. I don't want to be annoying about it on my personal Facebook page. So really what we try and shoot for is we put so we have a McHugh team Facebook page that's linked to mine. And whenever we do any kind of real estate posts, I put those real estate posts on. So my McHugh team one is 100% real estate posts. And then certain ones I'll share from my business page to my personal page so that people kind of, if they click on it, it drives them back, which also gives me some cred with Facebook, but it also shows this delineation between the two different, my personal side and my business side. So I kind of shoot for when I'm doing Facebook is kind of at 80-20. So on my personal side, I try and do about 80% of like, this is me. This is my family. There's my dog laying on the couch. This is us on vacation. Or this is, the standard, this is my amazing tacos that I had last week kind of thing. So I try and like use that part of it as so people can, I always look at it as sort of an interview of like, okay, that guy seems okay. He doesn't seem too weird. He's got the same dog as me. Like he's got a hot wife and she's beautiful and maybe I'll get to meet her. And so, it's like, it's that interview side of it. So try and have that delineation between those two where you have your business one and your personal one with Facebook. So yeah, I think most people understand Facebook, but it is important. Don't blow up your personal Facebook because people will unfriend you or they don't even unfriend you. They just sort of turn off your feed and you don't know it. Which is probably even worse. So lastly, the EXP Realty site, this has just started coming up. It does have my bio and you'll see it's the same bio. It starts out as a lifetime entrepreneur, but I don't know. It's a weird landing page. I don't fully understand that. So a couple more things. How much money? I got 20 more minutes, right, Jeff? 10 more minutes.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So I want to talk about going back to the Google My Business. Okay. So I just did a search on EXP agent Colorado Springs. Nothing to do with me, just looking for an EXP agent in Colorado Springs, right? And I just started noticing this over the last 6 months or so, but it's really fascinating. So obviously EXP comes up and it's EXP Southern Colorado. There's Yelp for EXP. There's St. James team, which is someone I know very well. Used to work at my old brokerage. A couple of different agents. Crystal Sisler, also great gal. She used to work at my old brokerage. Summit Group. But coming down here to Google Business, super fascinating to me. This has just started happening recently. So this is Treasure Davis. And if you don't know Treasure, she's probably the best agent in our city. She's a freaking rock star and just a cool person. And EXP agent does a great job. I mean, you can see she has 768 4.9 reviews. She probably sells 20 to 1 what I sell. But it's interesting. All of a sudden, I'm number 2 on this Google search for EXP Realty, the McHugh team in EXP Realty. And I'm not 100% sure why this is happening, but I do believe it's something to do with the fact that I have an address. And I think Google gives that more cred than like somebody like, you see Paul Jensen here doesn't have an address. And when I go look at more businesses with this, what's interesting, so it's Treasure, it's me, Paul, let's see. Recently, I've been seeing more of my people pop up in here because so Steve Heron is in our group, Dan Heisted is in our group, and they're all using my address. So Jen Riley is in our group. So of this first page, we've got 5 different agents in our group that are showing up on a Google search for an EXP agent. And I've actually had people call up and go, is this EXP Realty? It's like, yes, yes, it is. And I almost 100% know, like, okay, they just Googled EXP Realty, Colorado Springs, and we popped up, So it's like, okay, that the first time I got a couple of those, I'm like, well, yes. Now I'm like, yep, EXP, how can I help you today? Like, you want to talk to your favorite agent, Craig McHugh. So hold on, I'll get him on the line. So I don't know if anyone else has seen this, but it's really interesting to just Google EXP agent or EXP Realty in your market and see how you rank there. And it's, that's,
I think it's important for us to remember that, especially at EXP, we don't need an office.
mhm.
So, and I really do think that there's ways to create relevancy and drive traction of your website without having an office. I think maybe you're right. Maybe that has given you relevancy, but maybe there's also the amount of people that are directing to the website, right? But I think
Yeah.
if you do reviews in your area and you run ads, Google ads, I would love it if somebody would do a really deep dive class on Google ads because I think that's important for all of us to know.
Yeah.
But there's
Yeah. I
ways to
tried
create
doing Google ads and I
relevancy so that
just,
we don't feel like we have to get an office, right? Because it's just not how our model's built.
no,
I bet you have
no.
a great office though. I'd love to see it. I'm just going to come fly into
Yeah,
Colorado.
anytime. You're welcome to anytime. So yeah, and I think again, I work better at an office, and it really works out well. It works out well for our group because we just have a spot that they can come in. We don't charge anybody anything, and we just have a come on in and hang out, and we're always if somebody's there, it's just a workspace that they can work at. So it was just kind of a different spin on a model. So all right, real quick, I'm going to finish up here. I want to talk about paying attention to your presence. And, this was interesting because in doing that, I'm like, I'm number 2. I don't know how that happened, but it's like, I hope it stays there. It's like you'll pay attention and you can actually start to see these changes. You'll start to see patterns, and again, log in on incognito and you can kind of see how things are moving around. You can also, Google isn't overnight. I mean, I always look at like in 30-day windows, things that you put in are going to move around. And you can start to see that. So, if you add something new, or if you add, relevant content, when Google sort of makes the connection, you'll see it start to like, okay, yeah, that bumped up. So it's interesting to see how this moves around. It's also interesting sometimes if you start to see stuff that's like, why is that part of what I'm doing? Why are they on my page? And it's like, that's the kind of way I like it. Why are you on my first page? Scram. Like this is me. So it's like, and when I do see that, I'm kind of like, wonder why that's like that, and try and figure that out. So logging in, see how Google's cataloging things. If you see something you don't like, and I've had this happen where, it's like, no, that's all wrong. I'm going to call Google. Like, hey, newsflash, nobody's home at Google. Like it's a room full of computers, I assume, and there's nobody's taking your call at Google. But you can start to pay attention to like why something's like that, and a lot of times you can just go look at it and go like, oh, okay, yeah, it's missing that phone number. Or maybe you do add something and it just never spiders up. Go and make sure you got it on the content in the right place so that Google can kind of pull the thread and make that work. But you're gonna have to make a change and wait. 2 weeks at the earliest, probably more like a month. But yeah, nobody's answering the phone if you call Google. Lastly, I want to talk about, and this is something I had an agent that got a bad review. What happens if you get a bad review? It's not the end of the world. It happens. Actually, there's some logic, there's some thought process now that having all 5-star reviews can possibly be detrimental because people just assume that they're not all real. Like, somebody's just you're giving yourself or hiring people to write 5-star reviews. So like having a 4.8 review could give you more cred than, having all perfect reviews. So, but it happens. Somebody somewhere is going to write a bad review. The first thing I would say is, contact that person, try and talk to them. Most likely they wrote a bad review because they don't want to talk to you. But I did come across something recently I want to share with you. I just found this recently and I thought it was fascinating. You know, how you reply, and you'll see these, you'll see like somebody will write a bad review and then somebody, you can then have the right to reply to that bad review and say like, hey, this is what really happened. And I think what I have seen is, and I've read this as well, the last thing you want to do is like, that guy's a butthole, it's like, that's why he's like that, and I would never work, just match their negative energy. And, and then it's like, don't ever forget, like even your response to a bad review tells the public a ton about you. How are you going to reply? And how would you handle something wonky like that? And I came across this and I thought it was fascinating. I this morning I just wrote a reply. I put it into Gork, which is an AI from X, which I've been using lately and I really like. So I said, rewrite the following bad review that somebody left me in a kind and conciliatory voice. And then I said, the review was, this person came to me to help them find a home. After working with them for several months, I realized their expectations were completely unrealistic and I terminated the relationship. Because of that, they wrote me a bad review. That's what most people would write. Like, hey, that guy, they were just being unrealistic. But you know what, though? How does the public see that? How does the public go like, well, okay, it seems a little sharp and maybe a little snarky, but so I said, hey, AI, rewrite this for me. And so it came back with, this is the first time too. Thank you for taking the time to share your feedback. I'm sorry to hear your experience together didn't meet your expectations. My goal is to always assist clients in finding a home that is truly a fit for their needs. But I recognize that sometimes our visions might not align perfectly. I apologize for any frustration that may have caused. I appreciate the opportunity to have worked with you, and I wish you the very best in your ongoing search for a home. I'd be like, that guy is so sweet. Like, I want to work with that guy. He's super nice, like, and articulate. So, yeah, it's like, I've actually, if you're not, let me make this even broader. If you are not using AI to help you sound more nice and articulate, you're missing a giant opportunity. I mean, I use Gmail. Gmail has it built in where I'll write something and then there's a button right at the bottom where if you write something, it says tune up. And every time I click on that, I'm like, damn, that's so good. Like, it writes it. Like, I wish I want to be AI when I grow up. Like, so, it's like, it just takes in like smooth, makes it so nice. So, if it works, it actually is part of, if you're using an Apple platform, it's part of that now. You can go into their writing tools and ask it to, you can ask it to proofread, and B, you can say, rewrite this for me. And every time it does it, I'm like, that's good. So yeah, it's like, you should be using AI tools. And the reason why that is, I think a lot of people, I learned this really early in my career, like when texting was just starting out. I remember I was in our office and I was the owner of the company, and an employee sent me a text and I replied back, yes. And within maybe 2 minutes, they came over to my desk and they said, why are you mad at me? And I was like, I'm not mad at you. And they're like, well, your text, you sounded really mad. I said one word. I said, yes. Now I'm getting mad at you for bothering me. But like, I don't understand that. What part of yes made you think I was grumpy? But it also was a wake up call for me to realize, like, man, when you're communicating with people through text or email, or even on the phone, you really need to, like, I have to work extra hard to sound nice and feel like, like sometimes at first you feel sort of odd, but I've gotten good at that, but AI takes it to the next level. I mean, it's like, oh my gosh, I am the nicest damn person ever. I want to be me when I grow up. So it's like, I like AI. So on that note, I think, how am I doing? That's all I got. Jeff, any folks, anybody got questions?
I love it, man. This
I
is
should have
such
had
great
AI
stuff.
write the ending for me, like,
But we'll just end with ba-da-da, ba-da-ba.
right.
Yes, yeah. No,
Yes.
what I love though is that I think a lot of times it's easy to nail the things that you're aware of. But what's interesting to me about the content today, oh, hold on. I'm not on screen. There we go. What's interesting to me about the content today is that it tends to be a blind spot for a lot of agents. It's like, well, that's simple. How much could it really matter? The answer is a lot.
Yeah.
And especially if not everybody's doing it, or for that matter, in this case, I would argue 90+% of agents haven't mastered these categories that Craig has demonstrated today. If you if you don't think that being on page one of Google, or for that matter, being all of page one on Google, when you hit your own name or your team name or your market or whatever is important, then you're not on the internet yet because you don't understand how it works. I mean,
Right.
it's such critical stuff. And yet at the same time, this is not at all like rocket surgery, right? Like you don't have to
Right.
have like a degree from MIT to be able to knock this out. This is fairly approachable stuff. And now that you have, and I love that you brought up AI, now that you have AI to like coach you through it, there
Yeah.
really are no excuses.
Right. Yeah. And you can have AI I think I haven't tried this yet, but I think you can even have AI like ask it to go out and evaluate your presence on the internet. And
Yep.
I'll have to try that because I mean,
Depends on
it's
which
just,
subscription you have. But,
yeah.
you know, I mean, the beautiful thing is, yes, there are most certainly tools to help you with this. And so it just used to be this like huge blind spot, and people would be like, well, I guess I'll have to hire a coach and an implementer. And, you know, $65,000 later, I'll just have it all set up and hopefully I'll close a few deals and reimburse myself, you know. And it was like that tended to be a loss leader because either it kind of died on the vine, or for that matter, you just overspent and now you're in a deficit position on your business. Now you can just do this.
Right.
There is no reason to have to like wait.
Yeah. And it's, the thing is, I think of all the things I talked about, the only thing that cost money was getting your own domain name, and it was like $12. So like everything else here was free. And free is my favorite. So, you can go on and this is stuff that you can do if you have, a slow day, or if you're just sitting around, bored or just sitting on the couch, Google yourself and see what comes up. You'll actually be fascinated, to see it, and then just go in and start making little tweaks. You can just do it all at once, but you should be constantly trying to just refine that.
Yeah. Well, and I could probably name 10 platforms now. I'm sure ChatGPT could name 100 that would allow you to spin up a free FREE landing page, unbranded,
Yeah.
hosted completely by a third-party service. So like the old days of like, how do I create a website? How do I get it on the internet? How do I have my own domain? Like if you're like Joey69 at AOL.com, stop that. Like
Right.
just forward that terrible email to something, that was funny when you were in high school or middle school, but like
Right.
it's no longer appropriate. And people will be like, but I've been using it for so long, that's what everyone knows me as. Okay, who cares? Spin up a new one and
Right.
forward all of the crappy one email to the new one so that your responses start coming from something that's professional, and you can rebrand yourself. You don't have to lose the email address. You shouldn't shut it down ever,
No.
but you should leave it there, and it's just a forwarding address. It's like when you move your physical mail, right?
Right.
You don't have to own every house you've ever owned in order to still get your mail, dum-dum. You just forward your mail. It's the same thing with email.
Right. Yes. Yeah.
This is awesome.
And yeah, the AOL address. Yeah, don't get rid of it. I actually do maybe once a year, somebody will pop up with an AOL address. I'm like, wow, you're the one. It's like if you just cancel that, they'd finally go out of business. So
You're the one person left.
you're the one that's making them stay around. It's your fault.
Yeah. And if you guys don't know, I mean, Gmail is kind of the gold standard for sending and
Yes.
receiving, but Google allows you to host your domain at
Yes.
Google. So in other words, if you want to be, at bobsmith.com, that can still be a Google business account. They call it Google Workspace.
Yep.
And it's very cheap. I mean, the base level account is what, like $7, $8, $9 a month for
Yep.
your own
Yep.
private email. There's cheaper ways to get it done. I love those guys because their deliverability rate and is super high, downtime super low. So
Yes.
they're great, almost no latency. It's pretty incredible what they're capable of. But use whatever you want, but don't use AOL.
Yeah. Don't use it. Please.
Does anybody else have any questions? This is your opportunity to knock out a question. You have a top producing real estate agent, team leader, everything coach here with us today. This has been great content. I see a couple people either with hands up or unmuted. Scott?
I was just going to say something that you guys were talking about. And sorry, I had a doctor's appointment via phone, so I had to take it.
Technology.
So anyways, if anybody wants like a free, like a Google report card, kind of like Craig was just talking about, that kind of analyzes your whole online presence and gives you where your weaknesses is as a percentage of super detail. I'll send a little thing in there and you can send me your business name or whatever you want searched, and I can get you one for free.
Okay.
Cool.
It's really cool. It really breaks down your presence and where you're at and where you rank. It has to do with your ranking. And it comes as kind of, I call it a report card. That's not really what it's called, but it's something I could do.
Nice. Sellers, did you have a question there? You want some mustache advice?
From the king here, man. Jeez Louise.
Needs to grow the rest out.
I think John should go to handlebars.
Just my son saying, I want to see you with a mustache. So I'm like, all right, I'll shave the rest off just for fun. I'll draw the rest. Craig, I was going to keep my mouth shut, but now you brought it up. The 7 success is just so critical for people. And I think, you're doing it a different way than I've done it in the past, right? There's other ways to tell stories and things to get to your clients. But I just think it's so critical that people are seeing you everywhere. And I think the consistency is what you're talking about. And then, we have a tendency to be impatient. We want everything now, right? And we can't get it. And the realization is, hey, are you going to be in this business a while or not? And if you do a little bit every week, like you're saying, it starts adding up, right? You didn't create all of this overnight, guys, like that. Look, some of the things you couldn't even do when you started, right? So now Craig said, wow, yeah, Google business can be a pain in the butt. It might take you multiple tries, but if you keep working at it, within 60 days, you're going to have it figured out, right, Craig? Like even if you deny it, but over 60, 90 days, and that seems so frustrating. And yet it's just not that much time in the big picture of things. Here we are, February 5th. How did that happen?
Right.
Right. So I think it's just continue to add those little pieces in there, right? And then I think one of the things that you said in there is that asking for reviews, right? I just find that we are often scared to ask for what we want.
Yes.
We're often scared to ask for what we need. I don't know if it's just we don't want to inconvenience people or we're insecure. But, the thing that says it's like, ask for what you want. If you don't ask for what you want in life, you're not going to get it.
And if you've also
might be one of
been
those lucky people that just everything shines down on you, but the majority of people, that's not the way it works.
Right. Well, if you've also done your job right, and your folks really did have a great experience, like they're honored to be able to do a review for you. I've even had people write reviews and they call me up like, I wrote a review. It's really good, and yeah, so it's like they want to lift you up. They want to return the favor. And that actually just as a human being is a good thing, and feels great. And it's great for them too, because it's almost one more level of ownership that they have, and that you're their guy, you're the only card in their Rolodex that says realtor on it.
And there's so many things going on in people's lives that if we don't ask and remind them once or twice, and that's sometimes we think like, if we have to ask somebody more than once, they're not going to do it or they don't want to do it. That's not actually true.
Yeah. Right.
There's a lot of things. I don't know if you guys have ever had this where like you signed up for something, but then you couldn't go to the event and they keep sending you stuff and you keep not unsubscribing because you really do want to go. It just doesn't fit yet. So you keep getting all these emails, right?
You're not in the zone yet.
But you're not ready yet, right? And it'd
Yeah.
be easy to think, well, that didn't matter to me or it didn't care. No, it just hasn't hit the top of the list yet. So these things with reviews can make such a critical difference, that it's important to ask. It's important to ask at the right time.
Yeah.
And again, I'm the guy that asks for referrals, and I believe you should ask for referrals and remind people that they matter, because if you don't, you're just not on the top of their mind.
Right. Yep.
So thank you, Craig.
Certainly. Jeff, over to you.
My man. Well, this is awesome content, and I appreciate it. We're gonna have you do another session on how to set up your technology, because holy cow, you look and sound great, and I mean that from a video and audio way. No, I'm just kidding. You also, Craig's looking buff, y'all,
Right.
which is super exciting.
It's
And so
all
I love that.
it's all the video effects, the special effects. Yeah.
Yeah,
Can I add
exactly.
something else,
He's using
Jeff?
AI.
Can I
Yeah.
add something else, just as I'm
Yeah.
thinking about it? You know, one of the things that Craig's talking about today is it's not sexy. And again, I talk about immediate results. We often want immediate results. We're going to read something like, oh, do this and you're going to get this. That's great, you know, but the reality is that these little things that Craig is doing it just does a lot more than we think in terms of adding business to them, right? And adding business, it doesn't make it harder, it makes things easier.
Right.
And that's just some of the things we've been talking about on these events lately, is that, everyone wants to say, okay, do this and you're going to get 20 extra deals this year. Well, most of the time that's not going to happen. It's just not for most people. What it is, it's a matter of add these pieces. How do we communicate with people verbally? Like Tyler talked about last week, right? How do we communicate? I talked about a couple of weeks ago about how to really build your referral business, right? What pieces do you have to put in place? Craig's adding on top of that. How do you increase your credibility so when somebody looks, right? So it's all these building blocks that add together. And that's what I really want to keep everyone thinking, is that when you have your list of things you need to do, it's all these little things that we add together. None of them are really hard individually.
Yep.
They can feel hard. They're actually fairly simple to do, but they just take time. But how do you block the time out to drop each piece in, right? Where is that in your calendar? Like I talked about, is like, are you blocking in an hour a week or 2 hours a week to do some of these things and have a running list of things that need to get done?
Yeah.
And you just start knocking them out. You don't have to knock all of them out in one day. It's just like every week I'm doing a little bit and I'm putting it in my calendar. And I think Jeff brought this up and Craig brought this up. Most people right now in real estate are not overwhelmed like we were 3 years ago of so much to do.
Right.
You'll find many agents that are working over 40 hours a week right now. They're just not. So Are you committed to that? Are you committed to, I'm a full-time agent? Well, use this time effectively, because when it turns, you've got the things in place. And one of the things right now, guys, I was telling my wife this yesterday, transaction count is down to like 1995 volumes. It's never been this low across the country, at least over 25 years since they've been tracking it. Also, agent count's down significantly. These are the awesome times to be a realtor if you can make it right now.
Right.
Because what's going to happen is we might have a little more downturn in volume, but not much from here. So that means everything's going to go up, maybe not this year, but probably the following year. But also, when it turns around, we don't have the agent count we're dealing against. And this is always what I've found. Now, for me being around for 30 years, I've actually started twice in really bad markets. And what I found is, like, my favorite years of this turnaround were 13, 14, and 15, because I had no competition. The agent count was half of what it is. People weren't really working yet. They weren't really excited about what was going on yet. They didn't see it turning. We didn't have all the competition. And those were my favorite years, and you ask a lot of top agents, it's true, because they just didn't have the same competition. So if you lay these things in place right now, it's going to pay dividends for you. Just have faith.
Yeah, definitely thin the herd recently. And then also, I mean, it does go towards that reap what you sow. I mean, this is a sowing season. This is the time to plant and get everything ready so that when it comes back, it's there. You're ready to go. It's
So if you've got agents that are thinking about getting in the business, don't discourage people because it's really hard for you right now.
No,
Actually,
yeah,
encourage people to get in, because when people get in, it's hard. It's all they know.
right.
The
Well, that's what I've
people that
talked
got
about.
in
Like,
17, 18, 19, 20,
right.
they've been struggling like heck because they never had to do the fundamentals.
No.
Yep.
Yeah.
But the
I
people
always
that
say
get in now that have to do the fundamentals, I was
Yeah.
telling my wife this as well about one of our kids, trying to get her to get going into real estate right now, because I'm like, she doesn't have high expenses, right? Which is a great time personally.
Yeah.
And she's only going to know the hard.
Right.
And
Yeah,
then
I've
when it
got an
turns
agent
around,
in our group. He's 23, just got in. I think I just talked to him yesterday. He's like, I got 9 transactions ready to go. He could icon this year in his first year. And I'm like, how do you do it? He's like, I don't know. This is what you have to do, right? This is normal, right? I'm like, I keep going, yeah, it's normal. Keep going, man. Like, hell yeah, it's normal. Because like I don't even know, his head's gonna explode when it actually gets back to normal. But he's just gonna be like, wow. Because I always say, my analogy is, and I've said this before, which is like, people who got in when it was good, they just had to pick the fruit up off the ground. They never had to climb the tree to go up and figure out where the fruit's at. My guy Kobe, he's at the top of the tree right now, and he's found all the fruit. So, and even me, I'm down on the ground going like, hey, throw some of that down here, man. It's like, I don't want to climb that tree anymore. I'm getting too old.
That's hilarious. Well, it's a little bit like, I used to live on the beach, and the coconuts can kill somebody.
Yeah.
They fall from a tree.
Exactly.
They're really easy to eat if you find them on the ground. They're still fresh. They're
Right.
really hard to pick if you have to climb the tree. And right now we're
Yeah.
doing a lot of tree climbing. So
Exactly.
this was a great day. Thank you again, Craig McHugh, Colorado Springs. Outstanding content. Appreciate your servant's heart kind of showing up and giving to everybody today. And ultimately, if you have any questions, anybody on the call watching now or later, reach out to Craig, ask away, find out, how you can kind of continue to build your business. Everybody's a giver. That's kind of the point of what we're doing here, is really giving to each other to help, buoy each other and carry each other through this market. The market that is to come, it's going to be like there was no food at the salad bar. Everyone left the restaurant. You're the one guy left, and then they bring out all new food. And you're going to be the only person eating. So just stay in and get your fill when the markets recover. It's going to be great. And in the meantime, practice smiling, say your gratitudes every day, keep a positive attitude, and keep your expenses low. That was part of what we covered today. Craig, really appreciate you. Awesome content. Thanks, everybody. We'll talk to all of you soon. Appreciate you. Bye, everyone.